Yes, welcome back in the program today. And today, taking a look at some of the highlights in the newspaper, or things, topics that are making headlines in the preview of discussion, in Nigeria as of today. One of such is the issue, of course, the camp of the president-elect has come out to debunk that anyways, as a rumor that there's a meeting between Ashwaju Tinubu, the president-elect, and the CJN in London. Well, one would say, why do people, peddle fake news? Why isn't it that you try to do verifications before pasting that news, or let me say that information, to the public, because such news could be misleading?
Of course, when we look at the build-up to the 2023 general elections, part of what dominated this cause was also the issue of fake news, pre-election, during the election, and now we are also having another one coming after post-election issue of fake news. But when you also look at the efforts that journalists, fact checkers are also putting in place to rise to the challenge, but you see that even though we might still have a long way to go in really saturating, debunking all of those stories with huge accuracy and speed as to when they actually break out, you know that we're not doing badly in that regard still, because when you check how well fake news thrived in the 2023 general elections, you also see that many Nigerians, looking at the fact that we have a young population, we are very active online, these platforms now become veritable tools for misinformation, for disinformation, which could also in turn lead to violence, lead to breakdown of law and order. Just I'll set an example in terms of the issues that also came up during the election. You see some pictures of politicians, beaten with blood stains, and you feel he's been cheated. You comment, you say, no, who's doing this? This is violence. This is all of. But on a closer look, when fact checkers and journalists, subject those pictures to scrutiny, they tell you that all of these are fake. Some could even be from the movie scenes. Some, state managed, photoshopped, and all of that. So it also begets that citizens must be aware. You do not take news hook, line, and sinker. If you don't, we still have some platforms who are quite diligent in checking all of these stories. But if you don't get stories from all of these platforms, still exhibit some form of doubt until you get these platforms pushing those stories, because you see one person tweeting online or posting on Facebook or Instagram saying this has happened. Trust me, it could be totally false, because fact checking has also revealed that some of these things could be from way back. Sometimes they're not even from Nigeria. Sometimes they're not even from Africa. But they push this information as if they are recent. That things are happening now.
Okay, you see the extent to which some people can go to drive traffic to their page, especially this online journalists. It's somehow disturbing. Like one of our bosses will say, that they need to be checked. Well, then that also brings us to the issue of media, the role they play, in the during the election and post-election. People are accusing the media sometimes of being biased, that you see journalists bringing forth their personal opinion and views to bear on certain discussion, and journalism, being the fourth estate of the realm, ought to be the watchdog, and ought to be the one that will sanitize, the government, bridge the gap between the government and the people, and then they ought to maintain neutrality. What do you think of that?
Of course, just like I mentioned that we have some journalists who are, taking the, it's our duty. I don't want to say the pain, because even sometimes they are subjected to pain, having to stay awake all night, scouting for breaking news, scouting for any form of misinformation, in the space. You also have some persons who, there have been doubt about how well they are upholding the ethics of journalism. And, this brings to question that, do we all have, these ethics, these fundamentals of what a journalist should go by, the rules guiding our profession? Our journalists are also expected to behave.
That's a very question.
When you put all of this together, you know that you have some who are playing by the rules of the books, and you have others who perhaps are also going above board, or who are also going out of line. But sometimes people see, because I also had to see reactions when somebody seems to be following the law, following the rule. Some persons or some Nigerians could feel you're less, you do not have that competence. Well, exactly, that's not the case, because that 1,001 ways to say just one thing. You could,
depending on your intention.
Of course, your intention would matter. Yes. Even how you present all of these things will also matter. You can say the
cup is half filled. You can say it's almost empty.
Of course, let's take a look at part of the efforts some media organizations also made in tackling fake news. We'll rule out some of them, particularly those that came to fore during this election. Part of the claim, he says Dino Melaye, the spokesperson of the PDP, shared a video of arrested thugs on Twitter. The caption says the APC thugs were arrested in Lagos on Friday, March 17, 2023. But of course, that the verdict after subjecting that video to fact check, the video is old and misleading. Checks reveal that the video has been on YouTube as far back as May 29, 2022. And somebody is bringing this March 17, 2023. So you look at the time span, and you look at the level of havoc all of this could also cause in terms of how
for someone
citizens who are not discerning.
Of Dino Melaye,
that's also another issue.
There's tendency for members of the public to tend to want to believe the story. So that's why you also have to do the fact checking by yourself, and don't just believe everything you see, especially on social media. Hook, line, and sinker. I'm not sorry. Here's the EFCC going after corrupt politicians. After May 29. I guess it's the issue of immunity. By then the immunity will be off. Then they can answer for what they've done while in office.
Of course, definitely. But when after elections, you hear all of this. We're going after governors, others, trying to open up cases and all of that. But let's just hope. Let's stay hopeful about how this hunt for corrupt officials will go after May 29. Well, some of them who enjoy immunity would have lost it. Some of them who perhaps had political relevance would have also have lost it. But let's just hope that the EFCC is doing due diligence in terms of crossing the T's and dotting the I's even before May 29 to say, yes, 1 minute after 12
you're handing over.
The process kickstarts, and Nigerians can see or can eventually, know those who have been found culpable in terms of handling our resources, which we have vested in their hands.
All right, apart from facing the FCC, I'm certain that some of the political holders who currently enjoy immunity are also going to be answering issues, involving their personal lives as well, that have been brought to the public notice. But for the sake of immunity, they've not been able to answer. That's to tell you that one day for the every day for the thief, they say, one day for the owner. And joining us on the show this morning is Mrs. Bola Afolabi. It's nice to have you join us on the show, madam.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right, Mrs. Bola Afolabi is the chairman, State Board of Agency Against Gender-Based Violence. And
I'm sorry?
Okay.
I'm not the chairman.
Okay.
I am the executive secretary.
Okay.
Of the State Agency Against Gender-Based Violence.
Oh, pardon me.
Yes.
Thanks for that correction. Okay, the executive secretary on the State Agency for Gender-Based Violence. It's nice to have you join us, ma'am.
Thank you for having me.
All right, the discussion, of course, we're not going to be taking you around our tete-a-tete. We're going to be looking at the issue, gender-based violence, the VAP law, and child rights protection, and the success stories so far. I know sometimes last year you did some advocacy, since, let me start with this, since the passing of that law in 2021, what has been the difference so far?
Okay, thank you. The VAP law was passed in the year 2021, precisely 14th of July. And then we thank God for that. After the passage of the law, the Agency Against Gender-Based Violence was established. And principally, it was established to ensure the implementation of the VAP law, to drive the implementation. And then since the agency came on board, we have been up and doing. We started with sensitization because it's very important. Most people are not aware of the VAP law. They don't even know what is VAP law. So the first thing we did was to commence sensitization, to create awareness on the VAP law. So we started with, sensitizing the MGAs.
All right.
That was the first thing we did.
Sorry for cutting into your thoughts. Maybe you should just tell our viewers too what the VAP law is.
Okay, thank you very much. VAP law is Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law. Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law. And the law was enacted to eliminate violence against all persons in private and public life. It is also to prevent violence against persons generally in Ondo State because it's a state law, and then to provide effective remedy, and effective remedy for victims of violence, as well as punishments for offenders. That is why the law was created. And immediately after the agency was established, we started sensitization with MDAs, introducing the VAP law to them, and then explaining the contents of the VAP law as well as the punishments, therein. Thereafter, we also commenced sensitization on the radio, and I think I've been here on about 2 or 3 occasions to speak to the people on the VAP law. So currently we are also running, jingles, radio program talk on the radio to, create awareness on the VAP law. Thereafter, we took our sensitization drive to the villages. We have been to 6 local governments, with the support of the fund from the state government. We try to explain to them what is the VAP law. We show them what is the VAP law. And the wonderful thing that the agency has been able to do is to translate the VAP law into Yoruba language for the use of people at the grassroots. So whenever we go to the local governments, we usually go with the translated copy, the Yoruba copy of the VAP law, and we distribute. Government made fund available. We thank our governor for the good gesture. He made fund available for us to print and to translate and print copies of the VAP law in Yoruba, which we distribute to people in the grassroots. And we are continuing. We have done 6 local governments, and then we have done 3 local governments in addition to that, with the help of our partner, Westminster Foundation for Democracy, who is also supporting deepening of the implementation of the VAP law in Ondo State. So with their support, we have been able to reach additional 3 local governments, making 9. So we are left with 9 local governments. And very soon we are going to continue because we have already received additional VAP law, printed VAP law, which we are going to distribute to people at the grassroots.
All right.
You know, the sensitization is continuing. And then again, another, you know, important landmark which the Osrc BFB has been able to achieve is translating or transcribing the VAP law into Braille for the use of visual impaired. So that has been done with the help of WFD, that is Westminster Foundation, who is supporting Osrc BV, that Ondo State Agency Against Gender-Based Violence.
All right, so much you've been doing, but looking at the statistics, you know, of the occurrences of gender-based violence in the state, would you say that your efforts so far is reflected on it?
Yes, our effort is a bit reflecting. Before the agency came on board, there are a lot of reports on gender-based violence, especially rape cases and incest. Very, very many of them. But in the last few months, we discovered from, you know, the survey that we carried out that it has reduced, unlike before. We still have it, but you know, the incidences of gender-based violence, especially rape cases, are not as, you know, we used to have before now. So it is our hope that it will reduce drastically. That is the, you know, the focus of our agency.
Mrs. Falabi, let's take a look at this issue, because you mentioned the fact that you've gone to villages, and I'm quite interested in that, because many times you hear that some of the things that happen right there at the grassroots do not make it to public, you know, hearings, to cities like Akure that we have now. So, in your visits to villages, what did you find out?
Okay, thank you. We find out, because it's not as if we have reached all the villages. You understand? We reach, like I said, we have reached 9 local governments, and what we normally do is to have representatives from each community that make up that local government, and then we sensitize them, and we expect them to cascade in their little environment, in their own little community, because it's not really easy going to all the communities. It requires a lot of money for us to print, you know, the VAP law, and then for other logistics. But we are just starting. Our agency is just barely 1 year. So, as time goes on, by the grace of God, and as funds are made available, we'll be able to reach every community in Ondo State. But like I was saying, we have representatives from each community that make up a local government, and we train them.
You bring them to the
yes, we bring them to the headquarters. We train them. We expect them to, okay, go back to your community and cascade this training. And then we also give them copies of the law.
You talk about, because I'm very careful with the choice of words you're making.
Yes.
You expect them to go back and cascade all of this.
That is what we told them.
Have they met your expectation? Have you even had any mechanism to even check if they're doing this at all?
And that is monitoring and evaluation. Yeah. Is another part of our work. That after we have covered all the local governments, then we begin monitoring and evaluation to begin to see, go to those communities, whether what we have asked them to do, whether it has been done, whether there is a reduction of gender-based violence, whether there is a reduction of incest or rape and any other violence in that community. It is from them we will know whether we are getting the results.
But as it stands now, have you heard, because it's safe to say those representatives are like champions for you,
yes,
you know, to propagate the message. They change ambassadors. Yes. Have you had cases brought to your notice by any of these change ambassadors? Of the violation of the violation of the law.
We have one or two communities. I don't want to mention
of course.
community because of that have reported cases of rape to us. There is a case that is even ongoing in court now. Cases of sexual abuse and abortion, because the girl got pregnant in the process and the perpetrator aborted the pregnancy. The case is in court now. So we have cases like that have been reported by people in the community, even community leader, reporting such cases to us.
And what do you do about such cases when they're reported to you?
Okay. By virtue of the law that established the agencies, we are not to prosecute. So it is the Ministry of Justice that prosecutes on our behalf. But we have a lawyer, we have a counsel from the Ministry of Justice who is with us in our agency. So what at times it takes over the case, at times what he does most of the time is to go to court, monitor the case, and then ensure that things go well. So that if there is need for him to even take over in court, he will do that. But we are to ensure the prosecution of gender-based violence cases. That is how the law states it. And then ensuring is to see that cases go to court. We mobilize from the level of arrest. We mobilize from the level of arrest, filing of charges in court. So we work in synergy with the law enforcement agencies, the police, civil defense, and Amotekun, who help us. So when there is a case like that, they informed us. Then we arrange logistics for them to probably get the perpetrator, prepare the charge, arraign the perpetrator in court. We are responsible for that because we discover that most of the time, the victims of gender-based violence are indigents. They are from poor homes, and so many of them cannot even fund it, because in Nigeria, it is complainants that fund all expenses concerning cases in this country, which of course is not fair. It's like a double jeopardy. Somebody who has been violated, who is raped, and then you expect him to provide logistics for the arrest of the offender, provide logistics for transportation, provide logistics for compilation of file cases, duplication, and arraignment in court. But we thank God for our agency. I know that government knows all this. That is why government has also made funds available for our agency to ensure that we carry out all this, by mobilizing, the law enforcement agencies to ensure that, they prepare their file, there is need for them to have logistics for transportation, for arraignment in court. We do that by the grace of God. So that is why we have been able to get most of these cases to get them to court, to push them to court.
All right.
Yes. And the Ministry of Justice has also been collaborating, helping to ensuring that cases are prosecuted, they are filed in court and prosecuted diligently. And we also monitor it to ensure that, okay, this case is in court. We know how the development of the case in court until it is finally disposed of.
As you rightly said, most of the people who are victims of gender-based violence are mostly indigent. And the long process of prosecution, court cases and all that takes its toll on them, coupled with shaming, which is the reason why most people do not want to speak out. So when complainants bring their complaints to you, do you do anything about their protection, their identity, and to make sure that they do not suffer further victimization in the public? Because sometimes there are instances where people say, oh, they got to the police station or law enforcement, and instead of empathy, they get criticized.
Yeah, you are right. We have also got reports like that. But what we normally do is that we always monitor any case like that. If we hear of a rape case that is in one particular police station, we try to monitor so as to prevent what you are talking about. Victimization, just neglect, they just maybe try to, just ignore the matter. But when we are into it and they know that we are involved, they get serious about it. Because we're sure, we let them know that, look, you don't have any problem, just go on with this case. Whatever you need to ensure that this case gets to court, we are going to provide. So when they know that, okay, we are trying to encourage them, they too will be encouraged and they will do their work. Then we always tell the victim, forget about victimization, forget about stigmatization. Those days of saying I'm being stigmatized is past. Because if you don't get this matter solved and victims don't get justice, there is no day we can get through with this menace. So it is better for people who are abused, whether physically, whether sexually, to speak out. And that is part of the sensitization we are trying to do. Anywhere we go to, we speak to them. Don't hide it. Just speak out. If you cannot speak, if it's a child, if you cannot speak with your parent, speak with somebody you trust that can help you. And there are, even in all the local governments, we have a gender desk officer that people can approach to speak to about this. We have other NGOs in the state all over who are working on GBV, who victims can approach and then they complain to, and they can help them, to escalate it. Okay. Get to us or get to the police station. They can receive help, and then because I know that the NGOs will respond to them immediately. So we have been talking to them. If you want us to eliminate gender-based violence in this state, people need to speak out. You don't need to cover it up. And you see the danger there is when you try to cover up, you don't want to speak out. Number one, you will not get justice. Number two, the trauma will be there forever. And that is why we have been talking to families. Because we discovered that when cases are reported and then already maybe in the police station or in any of the law enforcement agencies office, you see the family members, the family of the victim, they will call and initiate compromise and say, please, let us settle this matter. I don't want my daughter's name to be mentioned. I don't want my daughter to go to court. Why will your daughter not go to court? Is it not for justice? But they don't want justice. They just want to cover it. And unfortunately, they don't know that they are undoing themselves. Because they are not the victim. The child who is abused, who is raped, is the one that is the victim. Is the one that suffers the trauma, and the trauma will remain with her forever. It's a psychological trauma.
Sorry, please. So what do your agency do about that? About parents or caregivers who want to withdraw their cases? Who want to say, we are not going to prosecute again, we want to settle out of court and all that. Do you weigh in on such matter? And what will be your stand?
Yes. Many times we used to weigh on that, like when we go to court. And some people, maybe especially lawyers, on their clients, the perpetrator will bring, affidavit of withdraw the case in court. And we have been trying to appeal to the conscience of the magistrates or the judges that, look, these people that are bringing, affidavit of withdrawal, that they are no longer interested, they are not the victim. They should look at it in that way. They are not the victim. If it is the victim that brings affidavit of withdrawal, okay, I am no longer interested, I am forgiving the perpetrator, okay, all well and good. But family members who do not even consider the feelings of the victim, they are the one bringing affidavit of withdrawal to court or to the police station. Because most of them, what they do is that at the police station level, they will go and bring the affidavit of withdrawal. Police, please, we are no longer interested in this case. Please let us settle it here, let us bury it, and then off we go. And we always tell the police officer, don't accede to their request. Even in the law, in the VAP law, there is a portion, there is an offense that is called obstructing investigation. Is in the VAP law. That if anyone obstructs investigation of any offense in the VAP law, such a person will be punished. There is a punishment provision for any person that obstructs investigation. But unfortunately, our law enforcement agencies, I'm sorry, they have not been making use of this portion of this section of the law, and it's there. So they should always consider, because when they come, at times after leaving the court, they come to our agency and begin to shout and begin to beg. We are no longer interested. Please, let us withdraw this matter. I always tell them, Mama, Daddy, you are not the victim. It is your daughter that is the victim. So you don't have any issue on this matter. Let the victim, if the victim says, okay, I am no longer interested, is a different thing. That means she does not want to get justice. But you are not the victim, and you are coming to withdraw the case. You don't even feel for the child. So it is not right for people to come with affidavit of the withdrawal and say they want to end the case.
Madam Secretary, good enough, you're also a legal practitioner.
Yeah.
When you speak about this issue, as you are doing right now, I begin to wonder, in case of murder, is there any right for withdrawal of case or anything like as such?
You see, like I said, any heinous crime. Murder, yes. Murder is an heinous crime. You cannot withdraw it.
So how can we get these issues, the gender-based violence, to also be under that purview, to see that once the law enforcement agencies or agencies in charge of it get to know, there's no going back?
Yes.
Because this is like a wildfire that could spread.
Exactly. It's the same thing. Rape is an heinous crime. Murder is an heinous crime. And we say, look, the most important is that because the VAP law seeks to punish offender. So if you are withdrawing, then you don't want the offender to be punished. The offender will go scot-free, and then will go back and do very serious, another one that is even more heinous than that. So, but you see the law, and the Supreme Court says complainants can withdraw case, and that is what most of them is relying on. They said they want to withdraw because the Supreme Court has handed down a ruling or judgment that complainants can withdraw their cases in court.
It's also applicable to the issue of murder when you have people complain about persons committing murder and all of that, and that case is established. Can such person also
when a case is established, before you say a case is established, that case must have been proved, and then it is established that the person has committed that crime.
So at that point,
sorry, Madam Secretary, there are certain cases. There are certain cases when brought to court, even if the complainant is not willing to pursue again. I think there are instances where the state takes over the case and say it is no longer a matter of the complainant, but a matter of the state versus the perpetrator. Can't it be that probably your agency, would stand in for the victims and pursue the case to a logical conclusion on behalf of the victim?
Yeah, thank you.
Even when relatives are pushing for withdrawal?
Legally,
okay,
every crime is an offense against the state.
All right.
So it's no longer an offense now against the individual. The individual, that is the victim, is a nominal complainant.
Okay.
You understand? So it is a crime against the state. So it is between the state and the perpetrator or the offender. But you see, the way we do things in Nigeria, our system, our nature here.
Sentiments.
Sentiments. At the level of investigation, police level, law enforcement agencies level, people go to withdraw. They say they are not interested, and then they will be called, they will be interviewed, and they will settle it at the police station. They do it very well. But in case of murder, they look at it as a very serious. It depends on the way they look at crimes. That is what initiates issues like settlement. But they look at the case of murder as a very serious crime. And so when they go to court that they want to withdraw, most of the time it is not allowed. You understand? But we have cases, probably maybe a case involving husband and wife. It has I have witnessed that probably the husband killed the wife, and the husband has been arraigned and then remanded in prison custody, and then later the family members, maybe the wife, the family of the wife, they will now bring affidavit of withdrawal and then send it to the office of Honorable Attorney General that they want to withdraw, and then they will begin to plead. The husband has gone or the wife has gone. What about the children? They should look at the children. Who is going to take care of them? And all these sentiments. It used to happen. But you see, normally cases of, murder, those heinous crime, always, most of the time, they end up in court.
Okay. So,
but you see, the case of rape, incest, because they feel that should be the victim, there is no problem now. She's just raped, and she can still have a normal life. So because with that kind of eye they used to look at it, that is why they have the guts to bring, affidavit of withdrawal at the police level, even at the courts.
Because of our time, we're fast run out of time. Let's quickly add peace to this conversation. First is, how can we get law enforcement agencies to now own this fight against gender-based violence, to say, even at the point of investigation, because if some of these victims or their families don't report to you, the first port of call is for law enforcement agencies. So how do we get them to own this fight and be champions?
We will continue with what we have started. And what we have started is educating, sensitizing the law enforcement agencies. We have been doing it. We have started it. We train them, some of them, but we cannot train all the police officers. But we have trained some of them, and we'll continue to train them until they understand what we are saying. Until we understand, the epistle we are preaching. Until they understand the contents of the VAP law. Do you know that even as at now, some of them, cases of rape, they will not charge under the VAP law. They will charge under the criminal code. Whereas the law says that, this VAP law, supersedes the criminal code in offenses that are in VAP law. So they are expected to charge under the VAP law, but they still continue to charge under criminal code. And we have been talking to them. We have been talking to them. We have been sensitizing them, and we continue to do that until they are able to adjust and understand what we are saying.
Okay, as our sensitization continues, there have been discussion almost all the states concerning the punishment, for perpetrators of a rape. Some say life sentence, some say death penalty, and all that. Has your agency pushed for any punishment?
The punishment for rape is already in the VAP law.
Okay.
It's not that we are pushing for anything.
Okay.
It's already incorporated in the VAP law, and the VAP law says if you have unlawful carnal knowledge of any person without his or her consent. See, the VAP law is the first criminal law that expands the scope of our criminal jurisdiction in Nigeria, especially. So it is very good we make use of this VAP law. The VAP law now has also, envisaged that.
So for the sake of time, what does it say?
So it's not only female now.
Okay.
So in the VAP law in section 3 is rape, having unlawful carnal knowledge of a woman or a man without his or her consent, whether by threat, force, intimidation, or by impersonation.
Have you had cases against violence against men reported at your agency?
Unfortunately, men don't report. I am talking to everybody now watching me. If you are a man and you have been raped by a woman, come and report. Don't keep quiet. Because of the ego of men.
Might not even be rape.
Yes, if it's just other abuse like domestic, they used to report. Okay. Men used to come to our agency to report, abuse or violence against them by their wives. So they used to report.
And what do you do?
Yes, because most of the time, we first of all interview them. to establish whether it is true. Now, if we see any sign of violence, probably on the body, then we can charge the perpetrator to court. But unfortunately, we are not the one charging. We are not the one charging them to court. It is the work of the police. But you find out that the police will also want, they are not really at home with it, like charging a husband or wife to court.
So they don't use that slogan, police is your friend, right?
No, it's like it's a domestic affair. It's a domestic affair. Let us settle it. Okay. And then probably they just rebuked or chastised the husband and said, don't do that again. But we have a case that even this one was done by a woman and the woman was detained. We asked the woman we asked the police, we have to detain this woman.
Do you have any conviction rate as of now? How many cases?
On what? On domestic violence? Yes. On rape? We have cases on rape.
That have been prosecuted
by the Minister of Justice and convicted many.
Okay.
But on cases of domestic violence, we have had cases like that too. Where a husband has been fined.
Right.
Yes, have been fined. And you see in the VAP law, we have the sentencing system, sentencing custodial system of sentencing, and then we also have no custodial system. So in that VAP law, you can probably you beat your wife or you just abuse her, or your wife beats you. Go, or they can say they can employ non-custodial system, custodial system of punishment, whereby the husband will be asked to sweep in a certain environment, do this or cut the grass, and all the rest.
All right, thank you very much, madam, for sharing your thoughts with us today on AM Today. Mrs. Ola Afolabi, the Secretary to State Board of Agency Against Gender-Based Violence on the state. It is nice having you. Well, my dear viewer, that's going to be the scope of our discussion today on AM Today. And from Said?
Of course, it's not just where you talk about security issues that you say, where you see something, you say something. Where you also find issues like this, perhaps it's also best to say something. I'm Sahid Aribisala. Enjoy your weekend.
All right, and my name is Folashade Ogido. Stay safe.